obviously growing up in the Caribbean household. There's such an emphasis on education. And you talked a little bit about your dynamic with your dad. Were they supportive initially when you got signed? I mean, was it kind of like, this is what the American dream is about, or was it like, hold up, you got to go to school first?
Yeah, I think there was excitement for everyone once we found out that it was actually coming from a credible agency. But my dad still, he had the knowledge of knowing that this the industry is very fickle, and that it's something that isn't, there's so many models, right? How many of them actually make enough income to sustain their lifestyle? And so with my dad knowing that, he always said that I had to focus on my education. My mom, she was like, no, my baby gonna go. My mom she always had a vision for me. My dad, you could do both, honestly. And so my dad, I remember one day we made a deal. He said that I have to approach this as a business, and I have to be committed to it. That means everything that is involved in it. It's a lifestyle. It's not a hobby. I'm not going to take a year off from school and decide, will it really work? No, it's commit and proceed, and that's it. And we shook on it, and it wasn't easy, though. He still put a lot of pressure on me, because the next year, my senior year, is this your next question?
Making it easy for me.
I'm answering your questions without you asking me, but my senior year, I only had 2 classes, and so I was able to do an internship, and I interned at Spin magazine, so I wanted to be a journalist. And look, I'm back.
Full circle.
But that was my goal, that and to be an entertainment lawyer. And so I had this great opportunity to intern at Spin, but I saw it as a bigger opportunity to go to castings, because my dad would not let me go to castings during the school week, which even if I was taking the ferry and going up to Park Avenue every day to work, he still considered that school hours. And so on my lunch break, I would sneak out and go to castings, and then my agency would call and say, hey, blah, blah, blah wants leader for the next campaign. My brother would say, what day you shoot? What day are you shooting? It would be Thursday. Negative. Click. My dad's a correction officer. Well, he was. He's retired now, but very strict. So correction and Jamaican.
But these were big jobs too.
These were huge jobs. It's Ralph Lauren campaign. I'm looking at him like, don't. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Baby fat, Ralph Lauren. I mean, my career took off really hot and fast, so I was very blessed in that too.
Now, I read somewhere, when did you really realize that you had a talent for this? Because I read somewhere that you actually suffer from some anxiety. And so you wouldn't think that, obviously, from seeing your portfolio and your photos. It would seem like you're taken to it very naturally, but you actually had to overcome a lot of insecurities.
Absolutely. It's weird because when you grow up in the Caribbean, I have so many brothers. You don't really pay attention to your appearance. You are who you are. I come from very humble beginnings, and so the only thing I worried about was, eating. I don't know, racing to the shower to make sure I get the hot water first in the mornings, making sure my uniform was washed. Those, like normal things. And no one ever said to me about, my forehead, for instance. I'm from the Cayman Islands. We all got big foreheads. Like, I look at people, they look like me, so it's never an issue.
We call it the Sade. Do you have the Sade?
Yes. I just need a red lip. Yeah, I didn't have any insecurities growing up. I was just very focused on family and love and everything that comes with that. Honestly, I think my insecurities began further down the road. Not even when I first started modeling. I was still very content with who I was, and that's it. I was the MAGA-looking, alien-looking girl that got teased her whole life about being skinny. And now I'm laughing at people because now I'm getting a check. And I'm like, right? I got a metabolism. But it wasn't until my VS days is when my anxieties and all of those things started forming and beginning.
Now you're jumping ahead.
See, you asked. Yes, sir.
Well, look, I mean, I think that's an interesting segue, and I think, we had a discussion, and you had mentioned that, you really approach modeling with a level of positivity and optimism. When did you start realizing that it was a highly competitive, and there were some aspects of it that were really like not consistent with how you were raised?
This is this is a good one. There's layers to it, For me, like I said, I wasn't raised to look at another woman and compare myself to her or to think she's inferior or anything like that. Once I started modeling, I realized that there were multiple layers to the, how can I word this? Okay, so not only did I have to compete with just being a woman, but I had to compete with other women of color, which was the most eye-opening and saddest part for me. I'll tell you a quick story. I remember early in my career, I want to say I was about 20 years old, maybe 19, still very young and excited about the industry and thinking I'm just me and I'm owning it. I go to a casting for I want to say it was CoverGirl, but one of those cosmetic brands. And at that point I learned that when you get to an audition, you have to put on your best face. Doesn't matter what's happening in your life, whatever is happening outside, you leave it behind. You have to. I remember one time I squeezed my cheeks so I looked flush, and these are just tricks of the trade for auditioning. But you just go and you're just happy, always happy, especially when it comes to beauty brands. And I go in there and there's it's very, very segregated, by the way. One side is all the blondes, the other side's are the brunettes, and then there's just the black girls. We don't get it's just all the black girls together. And it's oh, okay, all right. So I'm sitting there, I'm just hey girls, how y'all doing? And some of them are not so friendly, but I was used to that at this point. Anyway, every girl goes in, it's an elimination process. Next thing you know, I'm in a room with maybe 2 or 3, no, actually it was about 5 other women, and it was me and another light-skinned black girl and a few other girls. And it's an executive room, so there's all these executives around the table, and they put on music. I said, can y'all dance? I said, I'm Caribbean, so I was what? I'm just enjoying. Now in retrospect, you look back and you're okay, it was a little, distasteful. But for me, a 19-year-old girl, I'm thinking, well, this is what I got to do to get the job. I'm gonna dance. I was dancing, okay? I was the happiest child you ever see in your life. Anyway, long story short, I got the job. They asked all the other girls to leave, and they told me, you're perfect. Oh my God, we love you. And I was yeah, man, I was so proud of myself, right? Listen, I get downstairs, I'm all excited, I booked this job, and that's really what, as a model, as a young model, that's really what your goal is. You go on 20 to 30 castings if you're blessed a day, and you get maybe one out of, and that's a day, so that's 100 castings a week, and you get one. So this was my one, and it was huge. And I'm so excited. I opened the door, and the other light-skinned girl bust around the corner, and she was vexed. She literally ran up in my face, and she was taller, because again, I'm short for a model. And she said, why it had to be you? I said, I just didn't understand. I literally had to I clutched my pearls, and I said, well, it had to be somebody. Why not me? I didn't understand where her passion was coming from. But that's the first moment I learned that it was a dog-eat-dog world, and it's so competitive. After that, I learned that this was now no longer fun. That I could not go into these things thinking hi, happy, I'm just fabulous, happy to be here, because these other women were looking at me and thinking I was being, I don't know, vain or